Welcome,
Okay.
everybody, to this episode of the event show where we are joined by the fabulous Cat Matson, speaking and communication coach for business owners, public servants, and fellow corporate hippies. I love that, fellow corporate hippies. So, Cat helps you find your voice, articulate your message, and craft your stories so you can contribute potently to the conversations that matter to you in your way. In particular, she works with business owners, public servants, and other corporate hippies. That is, people who want to make positive contribution to society but struggle with imposter syndrome, being heard, or wondering if what they say is of value. So, Kat is great to listen to if you get nervous when speaking in any public forum or choke on key messages, lose your words when all eyes are on you, have a tendency to ramble, talk in circles, or drown your audience in all the things. Guilty. Struggle to make yourself heard in meetings, fumble your way through job interviews. She can help you. So I hope you will listen in fervently to what Kat has to say. We're talking about authenticity versus vulnerability. Now, welcome, Kat, first of all. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you very
This,
much, Sally. It's good to be here.
this conversation came about from a LinkedIn chat that we had, basically. I sent an e-news out, sorry, an email conversation. So I sent an e-news out essentially berating someone I have, well, not the person, but the process. I've watched this event, conference, business event roll out over the last 12 months, and 90% of the marketing has been showing me their undies. I remember when I first first
Were
wrote the
they clean?
draft of
Were they clean?
no. So when I first wrote the draft of the news, it was, "Are you showing your undies?" That was my subject matter. Because I really felt like this person was just revealing it all, and it was not compelling me to jump on the train and get on board their event. It was repelling me, not compelling me. So anyway, sent this newsletter out. And of course, Kat then reminded me of the beauty of the character and how we never want to see the character take their head off, do we? We
Mm.
never want to see the mascot when we're at the theme park, any of those things. We don't want to see, and we certainly don't want our kids to see it. And of course, this episode is being recorded as we roll into Christmas. And, makes me think about Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus and making sure that we don't reveal that, behind the scenes of that either. So, Kat, can you first of all tell me your story about working at Bobby McGee's? The,
Going to
the
say,
name was that the Gold Coast?
no, I don't know that there was a Queensland store actually. There was a Sydney, a Melbourne, and a Canberra store. And this just to kind of come back and connect, this is where this whole revealing the character conversation came about. So I first probably came across Bobby McGee's, which was a chain of restaurants attached to the Ridges Hotel Group. I'm not going to say which
Oh,
year, but it was when I was 16 or 17. And I would go to
a
the
couple of years ago.
Sydney store because that's where I lived. And it's a character restaurant. And it was amazing. Like there'd be a Groucho Marx and an Elvis Presley impersonator and a nurse and I'm trying to
Oh,
think
what were
what was up.
you?
Well, hang on, wait.
Oh,
There was,
okay.
and I mean, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I distinctly remember rocking up one time with my girlfriends as an 18-year-old, and Groucho Marx came up and sang Always Woman to me at the table. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like how
How
good.
delightful.
How delightful. Fast forward probably about 12 months, and I very spontaneously, as you do when you're 18, jumped on a train and moved from Sydney to Melbourne. And on the day that I arrived in in Melbourne, I'm looking through the job ads because, oh my goodness, did I need a job? And Bobby McGee's were advertising. And I was like, oh my God, that's my perfect job. Fast forward another 2 weeks, and I've got the job. So, yes, my character was Virginia Woolf, the 16-year-old
Oh,
sweet, innocent schoolgirl. There was nothing sweet and nothing innocent. My costume, self-designed, but my costume was a schoolgirl outfit. I generally wore a black bra or a red bra underneath my white shirt. I wore my uncle's Melbourne Grammar school tie. I had a skipping rope around my neck, like it was just awesome. Anyway, now to the relevance of
Have
this
you got
conversation.
photos? Have you
Pardon?
got photos? Have you got photos? I need a photo of that.
There are no photos. It's bizarre. That era of my life has no evidence whatsoever.
Yeah.
Um, but one of the rules at Bobby McGee's was that you couldn't step out of character and go back on floor on the same day as a shift. So if you worked the lunch shift, you couldn't go back on floor out of character. If you wanted to go to the nightclub upstairs on the same day that you'd worked a shift, you couldn't go to the nightclub out of character. So that meant sometimes I went upstairs to the nightclub in character. And
So
let me
she,
tell you how much fun the schoolgirl has in the nightclub. But anywho,
right,
but
it's
the
an
reason
adults only podcast.
but the reason for it was because, as they said, as management said, people don't want to ruin the magic. They've just had an experience with you in character, whether you're Elvis or the nurse or the schoolgirl, they've just had this experience with you in character, and they don't want to meet you out of character. Yeah. Yeah. So
And
don't remove the character.
correct. And it's the same in business. It is exactly the same in business. I'm reminded actually of what happens and this has happened to me a couple of times in the last few years where I've been in programs or I've been a part of something that someone sells, essentially. I've seen them as an expert in a field, and then I've worked for them. So, probably 4 or 5 years ago now, pre-COVID, I was in a program. The person was amazing, absolutely amazing. And then I did an event for them.
Not so
Not so
amazing.
amazing, not so amazing as someone delegating. Well, you don't delegate tasks to me, but not as amazing as. So then all of a sudden, I actually saw behind the veil and
Yeah.
went, oh, they don't believe anything that they're talking about.
That's discouraging. And I do think there is a really interesting balance between what we currently talk about authenticity, and I'm a big fan of authenticity. If you can't
Same.
speak with authenticity, then in fact, one of the challenges that we have when it comes to expressing ourselves is being authentic. And when we try to adopt the rules or the formulas, that's why we trip ourselves up. But there is a big distinction between being authentic and still holding. I, I want to use the word persona, or I guess another phrase would be the position. When you're a leader, when you're a guru, when you're standing up the front of a room
Hmm.
teaching people things, I think there needs to be a degree of arm's length elevation. I'm just looking at my hand. Like there needs to be a degree of arm's length elevation,
Yeah.
because even if it's only a couple of steps up elevation, because people want to learn from people who are ahead of them, who have done it,
Yes.
who are, they might have the scars, but they're ahead in the game. And if you are too the same, if you're too I'm still figuring this out with you, if you're too oh god, I don't have any idea what I'm doing, but please come along with me anyway because I'm sure I'll figure it out.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
that's not
So I
reassuring and
didn't
it's not
buy that.
appealing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't buy that. I didn't buy a co-working space with you. I
Correct.
expected you to lead the way and
Yeah.
show me. And
Yeah.
and in this particular example, the promotion for that particular event that I started talking about actually rolled out for 12 months.
Oh.
So for probably 9 of those 12 months, all of the messaging was, we're building this in the open.
Mm.
And I guess it kind of it riled me a little bit because all of the messaging was, doing events is hard. This is really hard to do. Getting people to come together in a room is really hard. And so it was all this, it was the opposite to what I say. Like it's none of those things aren't hard if you're creating it for an authentic reason, or you absolutely have what an audience wants. Like it's not hard if you've lined up the timing, the content, the audience needs, like any product that you're putting out there. it's not hard in inverted commas if you've got all the pieces lined up. But at the same time, if you don't, nobody needs to, like, it's not going to compel me to buy because you're finding it hard. Would you agree with that? Like, have you ever seen anything where someone has gone, oh my God, it's so hard being in business? And you go, oh, yeah, have my money. Have you ever
I,
done that?
I think, and again, here's that distinction, right? So we, in a social media, online, bare your soul, be authentic, show behind the scenes world, there is a notion, and I'm a big advocate, for example, of what I call working out loud. I will often talk about the process of figuring out how to put together a workshop for a client, or I will talk about my preparation process before going on stage and how I manage my own nerves and all those kind of things. So I'll work out loud. I'm also a big fan of people verbally processing because some of us, me
Mm,
included, we
yeah, that was
process
a
our
great
stuff out
article the
loud.
other day. Yeah,
But, and here's the but, if you are banging on for 9 months, or if you're banging on for a really long period of time about how difficult something is, that's not working out loud. That's complaining. And
yeah,
complaining is pretending it could be some other way. And if it's not some other way, then make it some other way. That's kind of why
yeah,
we're here. And that for me, that becomes a bit of a negative Nelly kind of thing. Like people don't want to hang out with the person who is always complaining. By all
no,
means, a couple of times it's okay to go, whew, this is a little bit tougher than I thought, but I'm getting
yeah.
through it.
Well,
That's
yay, we
fine.
made 100 registrations. That was
That's right.
exciting. It took a bit to get there, but wow, how exciting. We've got 100 incredible people in the room.
Correct. Correct. But yeah, that constant, oh, this is hard. And I also I think when we show behind the scenes, or that strategy of showing behind the scenes to build an event out loud, to build anticipation, the energy that comes with that needs to be one of anticipation. Like our mutual contact and friend, Leanne Hughes. I'm thinking of doing this. This is what it's going to look like. I've got no idea how it's going to work, but if you're interested, this is what we're going to do. Oh my goodness, isn't it amazing? That kind of energy, even
Yeah,
with all of the uncertainty, that's compelling.
yeah. And she built
That's a
community
different
before.
process. Yeah.
But she built community before. She put lots of successful events on, and this one was very different to those previous ones. So it's having runs on the board as well, having a bit of a track record, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to share a little behind the scenes. I know you've had your character reference there. I don't know if you know, probably nobody knows, but you can probably tell from my personality type, I was absolutely the promo chick. So I promoted everything that possibly could be. I didn't want to work. I needed money to go to the nightclub. So I did whatever it took legally to money to go to the nightclub. But my parents owned toy shops. And so Toy World, if you've ever seen Mr. Toy's Toy World, it has a big purple bear on the side of the wall. That is a character. And I used to be the Toy World bear.
And you
And
would
so I
have been the
don't,
best bear there was.
well, I don't envy anyone who is in those kind of character costumes because kids are mean. Kids,
Oh,
oh, they kick you, they punch you, they're not very nice. But so that's just a little behind the scenes thing for me. I actually loved being the character though, because nobody knows who you are. But
correct.
same thing, I could not take the Toy World Bear head off unless I was in the back of the shop and I took the entire character outfit off. Like there was
Yep.
no kids would be devastated if they saw it. All right,
Absolutely.
so how far do we pull back the curtain? So you've got a background in speaking, emceeing, facilitation. This is what you do on a daily basis, leadership coaching. Do you have an example or two of where you might have had to coach someone to protect that magic to have you got any examples of where someone's come to you and said, this is the story I want to tell, Kat, here's what I want to share with the world, and you've gone, let's just wait a minute and frame some of these things in there. Have you got anything that you might want to share about that?
It's a good question, and I'm just trying to think of specifics. There are some, as I'm thinking about a specific story, I do. I always caution people, and I hadn't heard this phrase until somebody else mentioned it, but teach from the scar, not from the wound.
Ooh,
And I know. And so, because oftentimes
I've
people
got
will go,
goosebumps.
I'll have, they'll say, I've had a really traumatic experience and I now want to use that to teach others. But if you teach from the wound, if you're still processing it yourself, and if it's still icky, then the risk, and it's a very high risk, is that you won't actually teach, you won't empower. Instead, what you'll do is you will drag people into your trauma hole, and it becomes a sympathy, or it becomes those kind of conversations where everybody goes, "Oh, you poor thing, and that happened to me, and it's so unfair, and why do all
Yeah.
these things happen?" Whereas once you've processed your negative experiences, your whatever they are, and that wound has healed, then you're teaching from the scar. And that's
So
a very different perspective.
how does it work then if you want people to relate? Because I think one of the challenges, we want to be relatable. So we want to bring ourselves to the level of the audience that we're talking to. So in the scenario that you're talking about, perhaps that speaker wants to send a message to the audience that I'm like you and you're like me, and you're not the only person or I'm not the only person, like other people have gone through this as well.
Mm.
So, I want you to feel like you're not alone.
Hmm.
How do you balance that? How do you balance that with again keeping yourself at arm's length, elevated, inspiring, you know, that kind of thing?
I'll give you an example of one of the ways that I do it. So I have had my own very, very close lived experiences of dealing with narcissists in personal as well as professional life. And when it comes to communicating with narcissists is a is a particular skill. And it's a skill, and it's to be honest, it's an emotional space that you need to hold for yourself. That you're facilitating a very different outcome when you're dealing with people who believe that they are right and all those kind of things. And when I talk about that in my workshops, when it comes up, when people say, "Oh, how do you deal with a narcissist, or how do you deal with someone who's always right, or how do you blah blah, blah, or how do you deal with a situation that might be a little bit, they're an unreasonable person?" I will give a couple of examples and then say, "And ask me how I know." And, I kind of do it as a little bit of a
Mm,
joke, and people
mm,
go,
mm.
"Oh, you've been around the block a couple of times."
Okay.
So for me, it's not about sharing the in-depth experiences of all of that. It's just going, been there, done that, got the t-shirt a couple of times
Yeah.
without having to
Giving the
dive deep. Now,
hint.
that's going to
Yeah,
be
giving the
different for
hint.
yeah, and I think that's going to be different for everyone. But again, I want to go back to this notion of we've somehow confused authenticity with vulnerability, and we've confused vulnerability with misery porn. And taking people down the deep, dark path of all of the garbage that life has thrown at us, that serves a purpose in therapy. It serves a purpose in 12-step programs, serves a purpose in support groups. It does not support a purpose in building a business. It does not support a
No.
purpose in hosting an event. It does not support a purpose in promoting what you're doing. And somehow I think we've lost those distinctions in a world of show behind the scenes, be vulnerable, be
Yeah.
authentic.
Yeah. We're not all Brené Brown.
Well, and Brene Brown talks about vulnerability. She's not vulnerable on stage. That woman is in her power when she's on stage. But we
That's
know very
right.
little about her life. We know very little
Yeah.
about her vulnerability, and that's deliberate. She's
Yeah.
she's not
Yeah.
being vulnerable on stage. She's being
No.
her.
Well, she studied it, didn't she? She's an
Correct.
expert in it. It's a form of study for her, not necessarily. She's not up there saying, "I've been vulnerable and this is what's happened to me." Yeah.
And
Yeah. Exactly.
she's certainly not sharing behind the scenes of, "Oh my goodness, this is so tough right now. This My relationship is just falling apart, but let me teach you from it."
Yeah.
That's not what
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
doing.
Exactly. So, do you think any level of desperation works in marketing in any kind of field? Let's say maybe not events. Does the whole please help me, or does that kind of work anywhere, do you think?
I don't think desperation works. I think you can be honest, though. So, as we're recording this, we're sitting in a really slow time for people like me. And I have reached out to a handful of people saying, "Hey, I've got some capacity over the coming months and I need some revenue. So, if you've got this kind of work or if your clients or colleagues, let me know."
Yeah, yeah. You've just reminded me of, because obviously being an event planner, when our friend COVID arrived, it was all over Red Rover. Everything
Hmm.
ended, everything was cancelled within a 24-hour period. You would have been exactly the same, no doubt, with the kind of work that you do as well. And I did a similar thing, actually. I sent an email that said, here's what I have to sell. I had a bunch of tech gear, camera gear, a whole heap of stuff that I just kind of would be relevant to people who were doing that kind of work now, as we all did when we went into COVID. Here's all the stuff I've got to sell. Here's all the things I can do. Here's all my services and how much they cost. And I'd really love it if you bought some of my services. And here's who I'm an affiliate for. I added
Yep.
those down the bottom. So if you're looking for these things, I'd love it if you bought it through my affiliate. And I think we get very, and maybe this is why that desperation piece comes out with some of those marketing, is because we have the imposter syndrome that you and I've talked about before, and we're like, oh, I'm not really worthy of selling. Selling feels icky. Standing up and going, here's my thing, please buy my thing, doesn't feel nice. When in fact, like, what are you doing in business if you're not doing that? You have to ask for
Correct.
the sale of the thing. So, yes, I did a similar thing with the email and it worked so well. People bought through the affiliate links that I shared. Organizations contacted me and said, hey, actually, we wouldn't mind a GoPro, or we need another
Yep.
camera. How much do you want for it? Or
Yep.
stands, or all the other stuff that I had. And beautifully, I had someone reach out to me, Sarah Yip. I don't know if you know Sarah Yip.
I do know, Sarah. Yep.
The beautiful Sarah reached out and said, look, I'm building this learning platform. I know you teach event planning. Would you like to put your event planning course on my platform? And I was like, oh my God, it was just so heartfelt. It really
Yep.
was lovely.
And I think so that, again, this is where we confuse desperation and vulnerability with authenticity and being direct. So to contrast the energy in a 9-month campaign of, oh my God, putting on events hard, putting on events is hard, putting on events is hard, versus a straight, clean hearted, I call it open hand, clean heart, and say, I'm in a spot, or this is what I need right now. Would you like it? Completely
Yeah,
different energy. And it is okay. It's absolutely okay sometimes to ask for help and to be
yeah.
vulnerable in that respect. But that's a different technique, if you like. That's a different communication technique than constantly marketing and constantly messaging that life is hard.
Yeah, yeah, very difficult, very difficult. I want to ask you, I want to ask you a question in relation to what you think people are buying when they buy a ticket to an event. So sometimes I feel like I'm too buried in it to really know and see. Like, I know what the value proposition is that I think is there, that I'm trying to convey to you. But do you think an audience is buying, let's take me as an example, are they buying my confidence? Are they buying my sense of stability? Are they buying my vision? What do you think people are buying when, let's take my networking events that you've been to quite a few of. What do you think people are buying when? So I always think the person's buying the person. Like, I always say to people, don't be the support act. Yes, have support acts, but if I'm buying a ticket to your thing, I'm buying you. I'm buying whatever thing it is that you do. I'm buying that, and I'm happy for you to have support acts, but I do not want them to be the main act. You're the main act. What do you
Hmm.
think about that?
Hmm. This is interesting. So I think people, I'll speak about myself. I can't mind read other people. For me, what I will first buy is the WIFM. What's in it for me?
Yeah,
And it's a straight out quick calculation, depending on where the event has come from. I'm going to leave your events to last, but if I think about other networking events, I'll look at what's included, who's going to be there, the ticket price, the time out of my day, the ease of getting there, the ease of parking or not, all that kind of stuff. And then I'll make a really quick calculation. Is what's in it for me worth what it's going to cost? All of those things stacked up,
Time and
not just the tip,
resources. Yep.
yeah, not just the
Yep.
ticket price. And is it worth the
How do you,
risk of it being a failure? Like, am I going to, if, am I willing to risk that all not happening to make that investment? So it's a really strong WIFM for me. The
can I ask you
person,
just a question before you
yeah,
go on to the next part? How do you determine who's going to be there? How do you kind of make that judgment? Is it past experience? Is it photos? Is it like, let's say it's
yeah,
a brand new thing. Do you go digging and I often wonder, so I always research, like when I see an event, I always go, who owns it? Like I want to know who owns it because
yeah,
marketing companies can be quite interesting in their event
yes,
creations. People will latch onto a subject matter and think they can just create something around that.
yeah.
And I've been caught in those before. So do you do any kind of
I kind
background
of,
research?
I'm struggling to think of an event that I've been to in living memory where I didn't have at least some warm introduction to it.
Wow.
So yeah, I can't. Oh, and having said that, I've been around this town for a really freaking long time, so my warm introductions are pretty strong. So if I was assessing a cold, like a brand new to me, never seen it before, I it would I would be gauging I'd be gauging interest based on the quality of the copy, the quality of the landing page, the quality of the photos, the vibe that I get from the organizer. Like I'd be doing a pretty big intuitive sense of are these my people or not. I broke that rule for myself recently and it was a debacle. I walked into the room, I was like, oh, these aren't my people.
Mm,
And I couldn't
yeah.
get out. I was like, oh no, these aren't my people.
It's hard, isn't it, when that happens and you can't get out?
When I think where what you're talking about in terms of buying you comes into play for me is knowing it's not necessarily you I'm buying, it's the quality of the experience that I know you put on that I'm
Yeah, right.
buying. So
Yeah, cool.
your
Interesting.
upcoming event, I like as soon as I saw the run sheet for it, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's going to be amazing. Yes. Just
Yeah, great. Well,
yeah.
it's built on the audience experience, so that's good. So that's coming through. So that's really interesting because that's what I want you to see. I actually want you to see the bits that are being built. So
Yeah.
okay, that's interesting.
So hang on, before you go on, Sally, I just because we've just identified a really interesting contrast. You were talking about this other event organizer who spent 12 months showing what was being built, and now we're saying that's what you're also aiming to do. You're showing what is being built, finished product. To
Yeah,
behind like literally this particular event that we're talking about is a behind the scenes tour of a
yeah,
concert
yeah,
event.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
oh yes, this is a behind the scenes tour of a pretty cool and funky venue. I'm like, yeah, I want to see how that works. But you're
yeah,
not showing the how hard it is to make that happen. You're not showing how hard it is to get the bums on seats. You're
yeah.
not like so you're showing how it's being built from a anticipation perspective, not from a far out this is hard perspective. That's the distinction.
And that's absolutely right. I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but that's exactly what I'm doing because as the email sequence rolls out, it reveals a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. But it's so for those that don't know, these events that I create, I always test something. I like to test a concept, an idea, because it's risk free. It's my event. I own it. If it doesn't work, I have a beautiful, caring audience who's ultimately forgiving of name tag ideas and concepts that don't work out.
Well, and your audience are other people who are putting on events, and so they're curious to watch the experiment roll out. That's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's part of the juice. Your question, I'm going back to your question, what has people buy? What has people say yes to an event? For me, it's the entire package. Like
Yeah.
there's no one thing. It's an entire package. I've made decisions not to go to things that I would really like to, like South by Southwest Australia, for example. I would love to go to that. They are my people. That is, having spent as long as I have in the innovation and startup space, that's my thing. But the value proposition, the price point was way too high. The inconvenience of having to do everything that you'd need to do, and there was an energy about it. There was a vibe of exclusivity, and only the people who can afford the ticket can come in, which is completely against everything that we stand for in Australia's startup ecosystem. So it's the whole package. It's not
Yeah.
just one thing. And
Yeah.
I actually think that's critical for event people to understand. You can't mimic somebody else's event because your
Mm.
recipe needs to be unique because it's the whole package.
And it's the energy of the people. I really,
Correct.
I love that part. Like it's so much about, again, if we go back to Leanne, her energy, her charisma or riz, as the kids say, what she conveys is like, I want to be a part of that. Whatever she's creating, it's going to be exciting and interesting. And I'm happy to take that chance
Yeah.
that's what it's going to be. I went to South by Southwest Australia the first year it came. And I'm happy to say this publicly because I wrote a public newsletter about it. My experience was not great,
Yep.
so much so that I ended up getting an email and ending up in a conversation with the person who originated the South by Southwest cohort to Austin, the music cohort to Austin. So he ended up calling me after this newsletter went out and he said, Sally, I've just been forwarded your, excuse my terrible accent, I've just been forwarded your newsletter and I'd love to have a conversation about it. And I was sick. I was like, because when you send these things out, like it doesn't occur to you who's going to read them. Anyway, you said it was for the elite. In my experience, they papered the room the first year.
Yep.
And I've spoken about this before, and just very quickly off topic, I suppose. When you paper a room, you have to do it with care, attention, quietly, and very, very carefully.
What does
Because
paper the room mean for the people who don't understand what
oh,
paper the
thank you.
room
Yes, of
means?
course. So paper the room is fill it. You're not selling enough tickets. So you
Yeah.
need to give them away. You need to do a 2 for 1, package deals, simply just hand them out, right?
Yep.
So they clearly needed to do this. And the reason I believe that this was the case is because I bought a music pass. So there's music, film, tech, and one other one that escapes me. But anyway, I bought the music stream. And how those tickets work is you get first dibs into the stream. So if there's a talk on and it's about music, I get first dibs into that. And anybody who doesn't have a music tag, they have to stand in line behind me. Except if you have the whole pass. If you've got the
Yep.
overarching pass, the ultimate pass, you get in front of me. I reckon 65% of the audience had ultimate passes. Now, those ultimate passes were nearly $2,000 each, and I saw mums, dads, and
Yeah.
kids with ultimate passes,
Yeah.
which meant I didn't get to see Nicole Kidman speak. I didn't get to see all the big names talk. I've got to tell you, Kat, like you know me, I'm pretty good at making friends. I'm a pretty good networker. I'm more than happy to go and have conversations with people who are even they might look like they're in a little cliquey conversation on their own. More than happy to walk in and go, "G'day, how you going? This is me. What I do." I went for a week. How many people do you think I connected with in that whole week?
3.
One.
Oh, that's awful.
And that was sitting on a barbecue table beside someone while we were trying to get something to eat out in the park. I was
So,
astonished.
look, since we've gone off topic, we'll continue because I've been to South by Southwest Austin for 6 years. I went 6 years
Which
in
I
a row.
reckon would be amazing.
It was. That's why I went 6 times. It was amazing. First time I went, I think the full interactive pass, which was seven days of like the tech, the equivalent of Australia's tech, was like $495. Like it
Oh,
was like, yeah, like so
shit.
inexpensive.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I had to pay for my airfares and accommodation to Austin, Texas, which is no mean feat. But the reason I kept going back, the reason I kept going back was because yes, you had to stand in queues, but you got to see people like Al Gore. I've seen Al Gore speak twice. I've stood in line to get his autograph twice. You were up close and personal with the founders of Twitter, with Elon Musk before he was a complete nutter, whatever. Or maybe he was, he just hit it better than
Yeah.
he does now.
It's the
But
behind the scenes piece, right?
but but the best part, and it goes to what you were just saying in terms of the clicky versus elite. In Austin, when you're there for South by, you strike up conversations with everyone. I ended up dancing with the cast of Glee in a bar
Oh, amazing.
because they were there and I was there, and I'm like, oh my God, I love Glee. And so, but that's how it was.
Yeah.
And that's missing because, and again, there's a whole host of reasons why it's missing. And I actually sat down with the South by Southwest Festival director one year
Ah.
because I wanted to know what it would take to bring South by to Brisbane. And he says to me, Kat, you need to understand, we've been doing this now for 24 years, and it's only been in the last three that the City of Austin have given a damn or have supported it. The
Mm,
reason this
mm.
works is because it has been built from grassroots support.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what happens with the Australian one is that the New South Wales government has paid an obscene amount of money, obscene, to drive tourism and destination outcomes. I'm very familiar with all of those outcomes, but it doesn't have the same grassroots vibe. And so
No.
when those destination outcomes are sitting over the top, they do need to paper the room because they've got to show their numbers, and it just doesn't have the same
Yeah.
essence. So
No,
again,
it
if
doesn't.
you know, when we talk about authenticity in events, the reason South by Southwest Austin works is because it is authentic. The
Yeah.
reason this one doesn't is because it's not. It's a
And
marketing event.
authentic means, I think in this context, authentic means building something for people other than yourself. It's
Yeah,
building
and
something that goes further than you, and you want to create an experience that yes, you're going to love and enjoy as well, but you actually want a community of people around you to enjoy it with you.
yeah, well, and I've got so many things now crashing in my head. An authentic event is one that holds space for your ideal clients to do what it is that they want to do in those spaces.
Yeah.
Whether it's bump
Yeah.
into people, whether it's hear from thought leaders, whether it's want to enjoy, like you have to really understand what do they want,
Mm.
not what would have them come out, but what do they want? And
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
25 years of South by in Austin has iterated based on, oh, everybody liked that. They didn't like that. Let's do more of what they liked and less of what they don't.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's how it rolls.
I
And it
can't
has to
wait
be
for you to
genuine.
facilitate the conversation that's going to happen at the next Event Managers Network. So that's going to be exciting. Having that conversation about what it means to have great entertainment at our event. And we've got some amazing people that we're going to talk to about that. But it's all of the parts, isn't it? It's all of the moving parts that come together to make it something that someone actually wants to invest in. And I talk about investing in it because it's not just the ticket price, as you say. Like I went to Sydney for a week. I actually came, I've never come, well, no, one other time I did come home early from a conference because it was terrible. But that was the first time I booked for 7 nights and I came home after 5 because I was bored.
Yep.
How can you be bored at South by Southwest in Sydney? I got
Mm-hmm.
bored.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All
Mm-hmm.
right, let's have a very quick close out to this. So, can we talk about behind the scenes as marketing and what actually works? So, and we may have covered this already, but you might have some more that you want to add in. So, for people in events or creative industries, what are your top do's and don'ts when it comes to sharing backstage content or process on socials and in campaigns? So
Yep.
this person that I've been referring to all the way through, they were actually face to camera. They were face to camera, like, oh my God, God, events are so hard. I really wish people would buy tickets. Like I was horrified. Excuse my
So,
acting ability.
so what would work to do a face to camera? Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I've just locked in the latest keynote speaker and I just cannot wait. I'm not going to let you know who they are yet but you want to be there. And in fact, the ticket prices are going up in just a couple of weeks. Early bird closes, blah 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 blah. That's how you can do your behind the scenes. I also think I mean I've done so many events in my time. Behind the scenes are doing the venue tour and taking video and going, look at this room and we're going to turn it into this and we're going to do that. Or
Have you seen my TikToks with Harry?
I'm not on TikTok. Oh, yes, I have. I've
Ah,
seen them
I
popping
went
up on one of my
on
feeds.
Reels as
Yes.
well on
Yeah.
Instagram. Yeah, I went and did some shooting with Harry the other day. That
Yeah.
was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about why you're putting on the event. I do a lot of head to camera stuff. I'm a good talking head. So talking about why you're putting on something. I host fusion lunches. I'm really excited about my upcoming fusion lunch. It's where like-minded people spark
I'm
ideas,
excited for
fuel
that one
connections.
too.
I know. I'll use footage from the previous event to actually kind of go, look how cool this room looks. Like so behind the scenes what I say, what works in behind the scenes storytelling is building the anticipation and the excitement.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're not excited, and this has been a good lesson for me, if today, actually, sorry, let me rephrase. Excitement social media or anticipation social media does need to come with energy. I don't think you can fake that stuff. And so if you're sitting in a place of, oh shit, I don't have enough tickets sold, and you go, okay, well, I'll do some social media, that's probably not going to work. Instead, what you need to do is wait until you're in a high energy moment because we all have those waves. And that's when you do your social. I'm so
Yeah.
excited about this. Now, in the back of your
Yeah.
mind, you can have I'm so excited about this. I have no idea how many tickets, but you can
Yeah.
still be excited. You can still be excited
Yeah.
and not know. I also think that to your example where she started prepping or started seeding the event 12 months out, seeding 12 months out is a freaking long timeline to
It's a long
maintain public
runway.
energy. Yeah. So if you are going to do that, maybe one thing a month to just go, I'm excited, and then build up the frequency in the final couple of months. But no one gives a damn about your event, and no one is buying a ticket for your event 12 months out. No one. No one.
But there's some rare birds out there that is working for, but they're selling into the already created community. They've already got, the community in there. I love what you said though about doing the why video, because I've done the why video, but I've done it on the checkout page, like the sales page
Yeah, right.
of so I did the why video there, but I haven't actually done a why video on social. So I might do that. You might see my lovely face out there this week doing my why socials.
I feel like I need to just also remind everyone who's listening that when you're doing storytelling, you need to begin with the end in mind and the end for the viewer or the listener of the story. Your marketing is not about you, it's about them. So what's in it for them? What's in it for them? What do they care about? What are they going to stop scrolling for? What's going to make them go, ooh, not a self-satisfying, a self-indulgent woe is me, or not even or not even the I'm fantastic, you should see the event that I'm putting on for you. That also doesn't work. It's what's in it for them. Begin with the end in
It's
mind and
right.
work backwards.
I found myself every time I saw something, I'd be like, but why do I care? Why should I care about that? But what I do care about, unless you've got further to add, I really care about your event on the 12th. So why don't you tell us about the fusion lunch that I can't wait to come to? I've been to before. Everything you say is true.
So
Tell us.
fusion lunches, currently held in Brisbane, sometimes held in Sydney, are designed to spark ideas and fuel connections amongst like-minded people. Why? Because I think some of the best ideas, let alone the best opportunities or the best relationships, will often come from outside of your immediate circle. And so when you're only hanging out with your colleagues, when you're only hanging out with your friends, when you're only hanging out with your own industry, it's really easy to get insulated and siloed and, the blinkers go on. Whereas there is a special kind of magic that happens when you have a conversation that you would never otherwise have because you're sitting next to somebody who you would never otherwise sit next to. So
Exactly.
that's what fusion events are all about. The final one for 2025 is happening on Friday, the 12th of December here in Brisbane, Vegas.
I'll be
There
there.
are.
Come sit next to me.
I know. No, don't sit next to you. Sit next to someone else.
I won't know them. I won't know the listener. But the last one that I went to, I got the amazing Ron Flivards, who enlightened me so much on AI. Like he just blew my mind, and I couldn't. Today, when I watch his YouTubes and everything, I think I got to sit next to this guy at lunch and essentially just talk to him about the next wave of AI, which was pretty incredible. He's a super duper
Yep.
hero in that world. But conversely, I also ended up in a great debate with another person there over name tags because it's my pet hate. I hate name tags,
I
but
hate name
75%
tags.
of my audience loves them. No, 75% of my audience loves them.
They're wrong.
Go figure. But so that was the debate. I ended up in a debate with someone across the table from me who loved them. Because their argument is always, it helps me remember the person's name. And my argument is, get better at remembering people's names.
I'm with you, Sally. And having said that, we go to far more events than the average bear, and we've been going to far more events than the average bear for many, 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 many years now. We've had too many tops ruined by name tags.
Yeah,
We've
that's
we've
right.
we've had too many arguments with printers to get the printer to print the name tags. Like we have a
Wrong
different
spelling,
hate of them.
wrong spelling,
Yeah.
handwritten when everybody else is beautifully printed with coloured logos.
There are no name tags at Fusion.
No,
Never will
there's no
be.
name tags at Fusion.
No.
I can't remember the person's name who I ended up in that debate with.
And
But
that's
I do
okay.
remember Ronsley. I remember Ronsley
Yeah.
very, very
Yeah.
clearly.
Yeah.
Well, Kat, this has been a delight. Thank you. Do you have any last words that you would like to share in this context of should we be authentic or vulnerable? I guess is the question, isn't it? That's the ultimate question we want people to think about. Are you being authentic, vulnerable, or downright showing your undies?
I think there is the answer is yes, we should be authentic. And you don't need to show people how the sausages are made. You can be authentic without stripping down to your underwear. And you can be authentic, you can even be vulnerable without stripping down to your underwear. You've you've got to offer something that people are interested in. Now, does that mean that you lie about how many people are coming if you haven't sold the tickets? No, but you still need to generate interest, and there needs to be a degree of elevation about what you're doing. There needs to be some positioning about what you're doing to make it interesting. So, yes,
Yeah,
be authentic, and you don't need to tap into misery porn in order to be
yeah.
authentic.
I love that phrase. I love that phrase you said. And also, we don't want to know how the sausage is made because we absolutely do not. We do not want to know what goes into sausages. Thank you
No,
very
because we'd all
much.
stop eating them instantly. If we really knew, that would be that.
Well, Kat, thank
Somebody
you.
somebody will have known how to make sausages. They'll write in
And
now.
that's great. They can keep making sausages. We appreciate them and we love them and we'll eat them as long as we don't know what's in them.
Correct.
Well, thank you for hanging out with me on the event show, Kat. It's been an absolute delight. I can't believe this is the first time we've done it. We must do it again. No doubt we'll find another contentious issue to talk about. Now, people can find you on LinkedIn, Cat Matson on LinkedIn. Is that the best place for people to find you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, I'm not happy with my website at the moment. So go to
Are
LinkedIn
we
and then
ever?
you'll find everything else there.
Yeah. Look, to me, websites are just the credibility factor, right? It's just the place people go, yes, okay, good. She has a shop front. She's a real person. There's a real place of business. Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
So
Well,
find
thank
me on
you.
LinkedIn or Google Cat Matson and you'll find all of the things.
All of the things. Yes, awesome. Well, thank you. We will close it out here. And thank you so much.
My pleasure.